Welcome to the Jesus.net channel where we explore life, faith, and Jesus together. Every week, our friend Pastor Grant Fishbook hosts a live Q&A where we respond to life questions from viewers just like you. Be sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button so you get all the latest content and you know when we're going live. Now, listen as Pastor Grant responds to a few featured questions that you might be asking too. I think there's a big intersection between what we think our purpose is and what our career is. And so Johanna and Albert asked, what do I do when I feel stuck at a job that I don't enjoy? I'm wrestling with God's plan and his purpose for my life.
Well, there you go. Thank you so much for asking that. I think it's so unbelievably important. And the way I would start saying is just with some people get this messed up within the world of finances, and they confuse their worth with their self-worth. I also believe sometimes that we get very, very confused when we equate our career with our purpose, because they are not the same thing. A career is a pathway that we walk on in order to fulfill a portion of God's purpose, but it's not the complete purpose that God has for us. God created you to be more than a banker or more than a teacher, or for me, more than a pastor. God has a larger purpose for all of us, which is, of course, to be a part of his kingdom living itself out here on earth. But there are those moments when we just feel stuck. And I love how this piece was actually framed, because it says, what do I do when I feel stuck at a job that I don't enjoy? Well, let's start with being stuck. First of all, David felt stuck, Jonah felt stuck, Abraham felt stuck, Moses felt stuck. Every one of them, if you go back through their dialogue with God, there were moments when they just felt like they were stuck in mud, they could not move, and they didn't know where to turn. I think specifically of David in the number of Psalms where he says, God, I feel like I'm up to my neck. I don't have any idea what it is that you're calling me to do, and so I want you to put my feet upon a rock, like lift me up out of the miry clay. Psalm 40 is just a classic example. And then, of course, he asks the question, how long? Like, how long do I actually have to stay? So what I would do in response to this beautiful question is to simply say this: there are spiritual reasons why you are feeling stuck. And step number one is to actually have an honest, gut-wrenching self-inventory. Why do I feel stuck in this place? If the answer is because I don't believe I'm fulfilling God's purpose, then you need to begin to inquire and ask God, okay, God, if my purpose is if your purpose for me is not to be here, then where do you actually want to put me? And what can I do to get there? Because availability when it comes to God's purpose is so unbelievably important. So there have been times in my past, at the very beginning of our ministry years, I was actually working at a restaurant. I did not feel fulfilled. My whole life was pickles and onion rings, and I did not like it at all. I mean, it was chewing at me. Why? Because I felt like God's purpose for me, and he'd confirmed it through other people. My purpose at that time was to work with young people as a youth pastor. So there was a level of discontent. So I needed to do a gut check. Am I discontent just because I don't like this kind of work? Because the truth is, I would be willing to do anything for God. I mean, I'd be willing anything. I mean, if he wanted me to be a tax collector, okay, I could be a tax collector. If he wanted me to drive a truck, I could drive that. In fact, that actually sounds kind of fun some days. But to actually do this deep analysis, like, are there any human reasons why I'm stuck here? And then to begin to really seek God. And what happened was Laurel and I really felt together that God had called us, and suddenly a door of opportunity opened, and we walked through that door and we became the youth pastors at Emmanuel Evangelical Free Church in Steinbach, Manitoba, Canada, 4 provinces over from where I am today. So if you are feeling stuck, this is a beautiful opportunity to analyze your own heart and make sure that you're just not being miserable for yourself, because sometimes we just don't like the work we're called to do. That's just reality of it. But then to purposefully begin to ask God, I need your wisdom. Open the doors and show me. I'll walk through them. If you're not content, it could be up to you to discipline yourself and to move into multiple days of applying for new opportunities, to find out what your passion is, and then to pursue that passion with everything that you have. But I want to encourage you again, don't confuse your career for your purpose. Your God-given purpose is to bring glory to Jesus. That's it. Doesn't matter what you're doing for work. But I promise you, if one of the reasons that you're feeling embedded is because you're not bringing glory to Jesus in the environment that you're in, I want to remind you of something else. Where God has put you already has purpose. It may not be the ultimate purpose, but it has purpose. So it doesn't matter where you are in your job. I want you to use it as an opportunity to build a platform for Jesus to shine through you, because that is his ultimate purpose. Here's what I know. If we find our passion and can work on that passion within the kingdom context of Jesus, we never have to work a single day in our lives. So find our passion, allow God's purpose to superintend, to be over top of absolutely everything. Be content with where you are for now and use it as a platform. Don't neglect it. God needs you to be where you are. We're to be salt and light regardless of where we actually land. And then finally, invite God into this process and say, Lord, direct me. Show me where you want me to go. Open doors, open windows, close windows, and I will trust you. I will move in your direction, and I will be obedient no matter what it is that you ask me to do. But one more time, don't confuse career for purpose. They're not the same thing.
And you know what I love, Grant, is that I've had jobs where I didn't understand why I was in that. Why am I here? But sometimes it feels like, what is God's purpose? But now I look back and I see, oh, God actually used that. God actually taught me something there, even when I didn't see it. That's the thing about purpose, is in the moment, sometimes we don't see what God is doing. And then we look back and we go, oh, I understand. If I wasn't there, there's so many scenarios in my own life where it's like, if I didn't do that, I mean, there's things that I didn't understand. And if I didn't go through them, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, well, and God is taking each one of us. Here's the other cool thing is, if I hadn't worked at A&W, that's the restaurant I worked at. If I hadn't worked at A&W, I wouldn't have known how strong my passion and drive was to be in the ministry. I never would have known that. And God had some preparation for me to do. Because I'll tell you what, I met some incredible people at that restaurant. I mean, I'll never forget Jen and Angelo and Dennis. I will never forget them, because I had an opportunity to be a Jesus follower in front of people who didn't even know who Jesus was. And when I got to explain to them why we were moving to Manitoba, it was a big deal for us, I think, and hopefully it was a big deal for them. Yeah.
That's so cool. And that people get to see, Jesus through your life, that people get to see God working in your life.
Absolutely.
It's so cool.
Yeah, so
well,
good.
And before we move on from this career piece, I just saw Rich popped a question in here. Said, is it possible to lead a godly moral life if your work life involves you having to sometimes be less than truthful? At what point do you draw boundaries and draw lines?
Wow. Well, I think it's important when we're working on these career questions to realize that our integrity, our character, and our honesty should be non-negotiables. That should just be it. If you are having to compromise in order to make your salary or your commission or whatever that is, then I think you need to turn away from it. I think of an amazing story of a young lady who actually managed a local store in our area, but the store sold less than desirable video material. And she had to make a decision. I had another friend, a guy who actually had to do the same thing. The stores that they were working in were selling pornographic material, and they needed to draw a line. Here's what was amazing. God honored their integrity. They drew a line. They said, I cannot be a part of selling that kind of a material. And God honored them with a new opportunity so that they could be true. And so, Rich, I really appreciate the message, the question. But what I would really honestly say was, if you are being called to compromise, that's not a place that God wants you, and you need to find an alternative, because your integrity is more important than your commission or your paycheck. It's as simple as that.
And compromise is such a sneaky thing, because what happens is when you compromise once, it's so
it just keeps going.
It just keeps going. It's and you don't expect it. You don't see it coming.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
very much so.
Well, hey everyone, and thanks again for watching. For more questions like this and other content from Jesus.net, be sure to hit that subscribe button below. You can also subscribe to daily encouragement emails at miracle.jesus.net. We'd love to see you again soon on another episode of Ask Grant Live.